Welcome to Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. The pre-fight behavior of Don Charles and his son Abdi, I don't call him George Fox, I call him Abdi. The pre-fight behavior from those two guys ahead of the Usyk-Dubois rematch was classless, yes, trashy even. But there's a lot of classless and trashy behavior in boxing from loads of different characters. What I more so want to focus on in this video is the fact that this father and son duo thought that they were going to get under Usyk's skin by questioning his faith, questioning his heart basically, calling him a cheat, banging on about how he's apparently vulnerable to the body. They thought that saying all that stuff would somehow give them a psychological edge. For me, it's a perfect example of how not to do mind games ahead of a fight. And the reason that these mind games were so pathetic and so misguided by Don Charles and Abdi is because they are too emotional as characters. Emotion clouds the judgment, and it clouded their judgment. I want to acknowledge Spencer Fearon because he knows Don Charles personally, and even he said in a recent interview with Boxing King Media that Don Charles allowed the success he'd had with Daniel Dubois to go to his head. A manifestation of that was Don Charles's behavior after the Anthony Joshua fight, when he was laying into Gareth A. Davis for no apparent reason, claiming that because certain people had picked Anthony Joshua to win, that somehow meant they had a vendetta against Don Charles. How does that make sense? So I concur with Spencer Fearon on that. Don Charles allowed success to gas his head up beyond belief. He then takes his charge, Daniel Dubois, into the rematch of Alexander Usyk, a guy who has clocked boxing, cleaned out 2 divisions, undisputed 3 times in 2 different divisions, beaten countless fighters in their backyard, in high-pressure situations, as an underdog in some instances against bigger, younger, stronger men, and he's come out on top. That is not the kind of guy that you're going to be able to rattle with cheap jibes about his Christian faith. In fact, all you do with those cheap jibes is you give him motivation. This is what I was saying in the run-up to the fight, when Abdi, aka George Fox, was talking about pulling Alexander Usyk's eyeballs out and all this silly nonsense. After Usyk said, yeah, after the fight, pick a couple guys from your crew, I'll bring a couple guys from my crew, and we'll have a straightener. And George Fox, aka Abdi, did a John Fury and tried to talk his way out of a straightener with Usyk and his team by saying, oh no, you don't want a straightener with me. I'll pull your eyeballs out. So, acting like he don't want a straightener, he wants an all-in. Anything goes, no holds barred, like John Fury. And of course, that's a tactic to talk your way out of a fight. If you don't want to fight, you don't want to do the straightener with Usyk and his team. Just say you don't want to do the straightener with Usyk and his team. But no, to save face, he's like, oh, I'll rip your eyeballs out, stick to boxing, don't challenge me. This guy. As I say, Alexander Usyk, been there, seen it, done it, bought the t-shirt 10 times over. The only thing that's going to defeat Alexander Usyk at this stage is father time or lack of motivation. Lack of motivation because he's a human being at the end of the day. When you've beaten all of the top guys and you've made vast sums of money as Usyk has, it can be a challenge to get yourself up for fights against people you've already beaten in the past, against regular schmegular contenders. Do you know what I mean? Even with the greatest will in the world, when you've been to the top of the mountain, the top of Everest, how do you find the same motivation to climb a smaller mountain? Do you know what I mean? The adrenaline's not the same. The fear factor's not the same. The sense of challenge is not the same. When you factor all that in, if you're about to fight Alexander Usyk, the last thing you want to do is attempt to get under his skin, because then you're giving him free motivation. What you want to be doing is playing Mr. Nice Guy, like Andy Ruiz did when he fought Anthony Joshua the first time. Playing Mr. Nice Guy, shaking Usyk's hand. I'm a real fan of your work. I'm honored to share a ring with you. Yeah, play Mr. Nice Guy. Try and lull him into a full sense of security. Then when you get in the ring, all hell breaks loose. Okay? Now that might not necessarily work, but I think it's got a much better chance of working than doing what Don Charles and his son Abdi attempted to do. That is more likely to backfire in spectacular fashion. A lot of people have remarked about how spiteful Usyk looked in this fight, and they speculate that it was directly because of the pre-fight trash talk from Team Dubois. And in fact, Alexander Usyk before the fight said something like, don't push the horses. And this appears to have a similar meaning to don't poke the bear. So perhaps Usyk was telling you right there, these guys are giving him motivation by talking all this trash, disrespecting his faith, so on and so forth. Don Charles and his son Abdi had absolutely no idea what they were doing with regards to mind games. Totally clueless, the pair of them, because they are far too emotional as characters to come up with a sensible psychological strategy to try and get Dubois and Edge in the fight. Far too emotional, the pair of them. So they came up with something ridiculous and silly. And all they achieved was making themselves look like a pair of donuts, a pair of plonkers, classless, and just totally unlikable. They certainly didn't get their guy any edge in the fight at all. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Don Charles and his son. Give me yours in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Are you surrounded by mindless bots in human form who adhere to the norm and blindly conform? Who swallow all the mainstream BS and actually ridicule you for questioning things? Do you wish you had more free-thinking individuals in your life to network and converse with? Well, look no further. We're right here. Come and join the Brotherhood of Reason on Patreon. You'll gain access to my weekly topical content where we take deep dives on an endless variety of subjects, as well as my vast back catalogue of podcasts, videos, interviews, movie decodings, and my Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You'll also get to talk and network with myself and hundreds of other people in our members chat. You can enjoy all this via the Patreon app or on desktop and download all my podcasts in high quality MP3. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time, just like Netflix, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Just download the app from the Play Store or the App Store, or simply visit patreon.com on a web browser. Then head on over to my page and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. All the links are in the description box below. And just a quick money-saving tip for Apple users. If you purchase your Patreon subscription on the desktop site or on Android, then you'll avoid the ridiculous 30% fee that Apple charges for purchases made on the iOS app. So if you're on iPhone or iPad, save yourself some money by buying your subscription on the actual Patreon website or on Android because it's a lot cheaper. Once you've made that initial purchase, you can then use the Patreon app on your iPhone or iPad thereafter to access and enjoy your content as normal.